So I guess I'm your luncheon speaker today. I hope you have your peanut butter sandwich there with you so that we can get through this last portion of the presentation. The Oklahoma Conservation Commission uh, took the opportunity to submit some grant proposals for these feral swine projects. When we started putting the grant proposals together, we did a little research to find out what we could learn about what the feral population looked like, and some of the most recent data, which is not recent at all, being in 2007, they were still showing that there was no swine that would be found in Woodward, Grant, or Tulsa counties. And I can pretty much guarantee right now that that's not the case anymore, and that they have spread to all 77 counties in Oklahoma. And the population estimates are very difficult because these animals move so much. And then you look at this map and you see the waterways through Oklahoma, they tend to travel the corridors of the wetlands and waterways of Oklahoma. And so there's a whole lot of abundant areas where feral swine have been found. And what we've determined, just looking at a few more maps, this was 1982, it wasn't that much of an issue. But then the spread began, and then today you can see all the different states that these things have moved into. And the reason is that they are very prolific reproducers. And so in a fifth year, if you can see from this slide that if you started with 43 hogs in year 5, by year 10, if you did nothing to control them, you'd be at 605 and then 122,000. So we're not going to shoot, hunt, or barbecue our way out of this feral swine problem. So the other problem that they're causing is extensive damage to crops and wildlife. Some folks think that it's a great hunting opportunity, but it actually is habitat destruction. If your goal is wildlife, deer management, or wild turkey, you're certainly going to miss some of your habitat due to the rototilling that these animals will do through your property. And then some of the documented damages on peanuts and watermelon crops, or just to name a few, have been excessive. The other thing that just really causes a lot of concern is the fact that they carry and transmit so many different diseases, and those are listed here, none of which I don't think you want in your waterways and in your herds. And it also is a huge problem to the water quality in the areas. So with the 2018 Farm Bill, this Congress appropriated over $75 million to go between USDA APHIS and USDA NRCS. And so APHIS funds are aimed directly at control, while NRCSs are aimed at supporting APHIS efforts, doing damage assessments, and outreach. And so there were 10 states identified, and Oklahoma being one of those. The State Technical Committee was responsible for identifying where the pilot projects would be. And one of the largest area that we selected was this 4-county area in which Tillman County sits right smack in. And so that's one of the main reasons that I'm here today, to talk to you a little bit about what our plans are and what our goals are. Part of our project and the way we have designed it, I'll say the other one is up in K County, and it's the Kaw Lake watershed. Both projects are identified and set up similarly, working through conservation districts. And I want to thank my 2 board members from Tillman County that are on the webinar today, Kurt and Terry. I look forward to visiting with you all soon about how this is actually going to look. We put this proposal together a year ago in last summer submitted it, early fall. Things slowed down through the process of getting the grants awarded, and then COVID hit, and a big portion of our project is to be outreach. And so now we've got to look at how and what that's going to look like, knowing that we can't have meetings together and having those discussions. So this is one of the ways. Carol, thank you for allowing us to be a part of this, because this is one way for us to get information out there. So I'll tell you, one of the main things that we're trying to do is get a good handle on, there's not a whole lot of data out there as to what the actual damage is, and try to assess what damage has been caused by feral swine. So just this week, we'll have one of our district employees from down in your part of the world and one of our water quality staff members are going out to pre-test a app that we've developed to do damage assessments. So they're going to go work with a landowner that actually lands in part of Jackson County and part of Tillman County. They're going to be working with him to pre-test this app and see if the data we can collect will be of use, and how we need to fix it so that we can roll it out to the rest of the Conservation District folks. In the meantime, also the challenges of working with state government is being able to make purchases and things like that. So we've got traps to buy, and going through the bid process to make that happen, and getting all of that to go, because part of our goal is to get traps out to the districts so that we can provide assistance to APHIS and their trappers to get those out to landowners and get find out where the hot spots are so that we can do this in a coordinated effort. The other part of our project that I think is very interesting and will be a good way to see if we're being successful is conducting pre and post test stream monitoring to evaluate improvements in water quality. One of the luxuries that we have is that we have over 20 years of data that has been collected through our water quality division on streams throughout Oklahoma. And so we've got what's called a rotating basin monitoring program. And so we've got a lot of data from Southwest Oklahoma. And so as we go through the intense trapping in these areas, we can go back and do water quality testing to see if we're actually making an improvement in what's going on there. The other thing that we're hopeful that we'll be able to do is a little bit of bacterial tracing testing as well in water quality, so that we can see that if, in fact, some of the bacteria counts that we're getting, they'll be able to identify what species it is. And so we're pretty confident that if we're able to do that, we'll show that we're able to find that feral swine are contributing to the bacterial count in some of these streams. So that's a big portion of what we want to try to do. And then working through our districts is how we want to provide training and outreach opportunities to landowners. Also have lots of folks that have agreed to partner with us. You can see that laundry list of folks on the screen now. Like I said, how that looks like going into the future is all very, very different than how we used to do business. And so I'm hopeful that eventually we can get back to some face-to-face meetings, because I believe, and field days, because I believe those are so effective with landowners, being able to see improvements in their place if we have a intense trapping and project and program throughout the Southwest. But our districts will play a huge role in that as well. So this is on top of other efforts that we have been in with feral swine. We made manual traps and gates available through every one of our conservation districts. And then this past year, we offered to our conservation districts, if they submitted through our cost share program, they had the opportunity to put a business plan together and submit it to us so that they could purchase an electronic trap. So that is what our other outreach efforts are currently. Like I said, we are behind. Luckily, they've extended the time of this grant so that we can get things off the ground. If ever there were roadblocks that got in our way for a project, this one certainly had them, from delays in agreements being signed to trying to stand up a budget in between fiscal years to be able to purchase materials and equipment. And then, as everybody has said, COVID has just really hit hard to some of the projects that we're trying to get initiated. So I hope in the very near future, after I hear back from my field folks how their assessment went with the app, if we'll be able to get that rolled out to folks here very quickly in the fall and start getting some damage assessments and data collected so we know where the best places are to start with the trapping efforts. With that, I'd be happy to field any questions, Troy, that you guys may be seeing, but also y'all will have my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me as well, and I'll be happy to try to answer those questions individually.
Sure. A question did come in. It said, tell us a little more about the app to assess damage. What's the purpose of the app? And I think you were kind of talking about you're trying to get an actual amount damage of what is going on out there.
Yes, so that's a great question. One of the things that we hear anecdotal information about the fact that there's damage everywhere, that feral swine are everywhere. And so, but there's no real good data collected on how much that is and what's the dollar value of to rangeland and cropland. And even in some areas we've got where it's cultural damage. We've seen cemeteries that have been completely rooted up and headstones knocked over because of feral swine infestation. So we know they're out there. We know we've got a huge population, but we don't know a good dollar figure of what the damage is. And so this app that we've put together is based off of the soil health app that our soil health team has been putting together so that a landowner or some of our staff, our district staff, could go out and evaluate a piece of property and be able to identify where the damage is, whether it's in waterways, whether it's in a wheat field, how many acres have they churned up and destroyed of crop, and what efforts have been put in place to try to control swine. And that way it will help us, if you will, triage getting traps out to the most infected, invest where the biggest bang for our buck will be if we can get our traps out there and get large quantities of swine eradicated.
All right. Lisa, one of the other questions that I'll just throw out there because I'm sure that it's always asked. So if one of these producers wants to get involved or if they have issues with feral swine, what's the best place to contact? Would it be the district conservation there?
It would be the local conservation district. Absolutely. That's where they know those folks. That's where we want to get our information out to, and hopefully within the next 45 to 60 days, we'll be able to get traps on order and in production so that we'll be able to see an influx of materials out there for our districts to work with APHIS trappers to get those deployed.
Great. I don't see any more questions. So if anybody else has any questions, feel free to submit those and we'll get those answered. But Lisa, good job.